right? Because it's from within yourself. It's you. So what you're doing. And to me, that's where original ideas go out there, and we're coming from outside the box. So my definition of when you say think outside the box is basically thinking outside of that particular box, where you're going around in that little loop of just looking at what's around you, what's immediate, what's in your short-term memory, right? And then developing around there. And like what we all do, right? Like a lot of us, you know, we go, hey, you know, there are tons of iPhone games out there. Let's make some iPhone games. What do? You go out and play 20 different iPhone games. So what I'm saying is that that's that loop over there. If you want to make original stuff, you don't play the 20 iPhone games. You don't go play 100 games to make your one game. You think of everything else that you've experienced, and you create your game from that. And that's the original ideas. So, doodling. So what's doodling going to do about that? To me, doodling allows us to cut through the layers of stuff that has been built up on that core, that root experiences and thoughts and ideas that we have. Because especially these days, we're so inundated with all kinds of information. Every day you've got, you know, all kinds of like media bombarding you, right? That it is often difficult to actually cut away those layers and get down into those original ideas. And so doodling, without any intent, allows you to dig into that rawness by experimenting, and most importantly by playing. You're sitting there, just playing around with it and trying to, it's what you call, I would say, almost an innocent feeling. There's a kind of innocence to doodling, where you just, without thought, just having your expressions come out. So, this is a quote by Sir Ken Robinson. He said, creativity is the process of having original ideas that have value. Now, I kind of subscribe to what he says here, and what he's saying is that because we have all kinds of ideas all the time, right? And quite often, I would give examples. This is my interpretation of it. Like for simple down-to-earth example, you know, you're sitting outside with your friends going, you know, hey, what do you want to eat? Some guy goes, I don't know, well, why don't we go over there? That's a bad idea, right? So that idea, that thought, has no value to you, right? Whereas someone goes, you know, hey, you know, it's easier if we just stay at home and cook food. I go, oh, that's an awesome idea. And suddenly that idea, that thought has value. So that person is thinking creatively, right? And then we can apply this to, you know, what we're doing with our games and with our movies and literature. Now, that to me is also what doodling helps you do. Doodling helps you sift through those ideas, sift through all the little thoughts and ideas that you have in your head, right? To then come out and find the ones that have value to you, that the ones that you can use. So, moving on, how can we doodle? So, traditionally doodle is about drawing, it's about pen and paper, but from what I was talking about, doodling is about just playing with those raw thoughts, with the raw ideas that are inside you. And yeah, and see, yes, Russ is doing a nice doodle over here. What's it called? Original. So yeah, it's one is drawing, but it's also important to look at other forms of doodling, as in terms of I like to call play, experiment, and what we talked about, right? So creating without the intent, correct? And we did this as children. When we were children, we played with Legos. We played with plasticine, right? We started drawing stuff with crayons and stuff, and we didn't have so many thoughts affecting us. We didn't sit down and go, you know, very often we didn't really sit down and go like, ooh, I am going to make this thing with this plasticine. No, you just went there, you know, you dragged it, squished it. Ooh, what can I do? Ooh, comes out a little shape, right? And you go like, ooh, I can add on to this, make that. And you just explored. you explored all the time. And children do that all the time. A big thing in our office, in our studio, we design levels with Legos. Right? We wouldn't sit down with pen and paper or sit down in front of a 3D program or anything. We actually had big containers full of Legos, and we're like, okay, design time, throw it out, sit there and play with all these Legos. And these days, maybe because we're trying to cut down on time, we're trying to be too serious, but we tend to have let go of that sense of play, of discovery, with just doing things unintentionally. So I turn to software because of the time and stuff, where you can't really carry around your Lego box with you everywhere. Kind of be odd if you're sitting in go to a Starbucks, and pile up the Legos, hey! Right? So I tend to turn to okay, I'll open up my laptop. What can I play with? What can I do? And that to me is like, there's a little problem with that. Now as developers, right, we use tons of tools, right? All kinds of applications, utilities to actually create, right? We actually use all these things to create the games and the movies and the music, but let's talk about games, since we're doing games here. So we use all kinds of tools that supposedly make our production more optimized, supposedly makes it faster, supposedly makes us creative, right? Like, do I have Adobe there? No, I don't. But, the creative suite, right? But I don't find these softwares creative at all. I find them rather limiting. Not limiting because of the features, but because software has come to a point where it's piled on with so many layers of crap, right? It's, I mean, it's like, look at that, you want to play with that, right? That's a game development tool, right? You're going to play with that to make your game, right? What do you click? What do you press? It's not as simple as, Legos, is it, right? So you're sitting there, just like, everyday life, where you're inundated with information. Yeah, there's tons of it. It's awesome, great. I mean, we've got so much information, but there's also so much crap layered on top. And same thing with the software, right? I mean, this is awesome. Look, I can make a photorealistic scene there, right? It tells you that with all these things. I don't know if I can even make a bleeding box in there, right? Because I seriously would have trouble figuring out how to do that. And so I would go, oh well, I guess it's for serious developers. But that's the thing, it's like, I'm not knocking the tools in terms that they don't do the good job. They do a good job. All these tools work well, it's why I still use them in production, right? But they're focused on doing certain jobs. Right? They're not focused on playing. So when you step into 3D Studio Max, right, you can't sit there and go, oh, what can it do for me? No, it's more like, what do you want to do? And that's the problem there. It's always these softwares asking you, what do you want to do? I mean, I can do anything. What do you want to do? But when you want to play, it should be the opposite. You're playing with something and saying, let that thing, that software, take you somewhere. And this is what we do not get now. Now, while I was making this presentation, I was thinking about, this is about, have you guys heard of Lightwave 3D? Right? Yes? Yeah. Has anyone used Lightwave 3D here? Okay. Version 10, version 9. Version 9, okay. That is Lightwave version 5. That's version 5. Look at how many buttons it has. Right? That's the modeler up there. That's it. Nothing else. Right? And tons of stuff was made with it. They didn't need all those panels and pop-ups and all these other features. Things were great with just that. And you could create with that. You could play with it. You could go in and start going, ooh, there's a button labeled box. I'll click that. It's a big button, Here it's like, people go, I have people asking me in 3D Studio Max, how to make a box. I'm like, and I think it's to explain to them, oh, make a box, click on the primitive tab, where's the primitive stab? What is a primitive stab? So, see how to even make a freaking box, right? Here it's a box, cylinder, sphere, and then you start building from there. Very simple, very straightforward. Another nice thing about it was that it was modular. There's 2 applications for lightweight. It still is, right? Yep. Because when you're modeling, why the hell do I want all the animation stuff in the way? Why do I want a timeline in there when I'm modeling? And especially these days. I mean, those days, of course, modeling low poly models, right? You know, take a couple of days. Now it would take like a bleeding month to do one of those high-res models. So you'll be modeling and texturing for a month, and you're not touching any animation. So why you put it there, right? Hugging resources, getting in the way, you know? I got to run 2 screens because I want to get rid of stuff, right? So that's one of the things where software needs to be a bit more modular, needs to be cut down a little bit, made simpler so that we can play with it. Now this second software is it's called Scala Multimedia. It was an awesome authoring software. It was a presentation and authoring software, so you can actually do interactive applications with it, all right? And that's how it starts out with. That's all. That's all you had. Then when you clicked on something, like when you clicked on the little button over there for a transition, this came up, right? That's all there was. I mean, now, you know, you launch PowerPoint and you're like, where the hell is buttons up there, you know? How do I add a new slide, right? And you've got to sit there and spend time figuring out the software before you can actually create. That's one of the biggest problems. You spend most of your time figuring out the tool than actually playing with it and creating stuff. And of course, I just threw that in because Deluxe Paint is an awesome tool as well. Ah, yeah, well, in fact, like Deluxe Paint, like for example, there's one thing in Deluxe Paint that I don't understand why no one does, is an animated brush, right? Now, you know brushes, right? In Photoshop, little brush tool. You click on, you have different types of brushes that you can click about. The anim brush is an animated brush, right? So you could just like have your animation, like say, you know, 20 frames, right? Control, you know, grab anim brush, control, drag, select, and it grabs all those 20 frames and puts it in a brush, and then you can paint with it. And you can just paint with an animated brush. And you can even do things like, if you wanted to have like a, you know, like a spinning circle, moving from one corner to another, right? Make an animation of a spinning circle, grab that as an anim brush, drag your line tool, click, click, and you've got that happening. Now, people have to load up freaking After Effects to do something like that. Ridiculous, right? You know, $2,000 software to just do a spinning globe, right? Floating down to a corner of the screen. And you have to have, you need to like render out the globe in, you know, 3ds Max or Lightwave, and then like transfer it with alpha to After Effects. And all I want is just that. You could do that in 5 minutes back then, right? And another cool one was much older software called Imagine, which was a 3D animation program. And it had looping animated objects. So you could have, it was called the loop editor or something like that. But basically you could take, like say you had a character, right? Load it up into the loop editor, make a walk cycle, right? Save it out as an animated brush. And then no matter how long your animation was, you had the character walking, looping. So you didn't have to worry about, you know, having it timed to different things. You could just like stick that loop guy and just drag your animation with your camera flies and have people walking around looping all the time. No problem. But it's all gone. These little simple features are gone. So now it takes like, you know, now of course people tell you like, you know, artists will tell you, yeah, I can do the looping animation in Max really fast. No problem. Yeah. Do the animation, launch the curve editor. You know, you've seen the curve editor with these little curves and little lines and stuff, and you know, I'm like, dude, I don't want to do that. I just want to go click, click, done, right? And it can be done. It doesn't need to be complex. And that's what's gone wrong with software today. So, before I keep going on, let me finish my rant here about software.
12 minutes, Joe. 12 minutes. 12 minutes.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. Enjoying my rant. Okay, final rant. Right? Now,